Hey, what is up, everybody? This is Stevie Breach coming to you here today. We are on August 3rd. It's counting down to Monday Night Raw tonight, and the lead story, bouncing off all of the internet boards. I'm sure you saw it on the Facebook and the Twitter and all that jazz. Is that Shane McMahon is going to be returning to WWE's Monday Night Raw tonight. He is going to be leading some sort of faction. Well, right off of the bat, we're not going to know the members. I don't know if that means they're going to go like with the aces and eights and the guys are wearing the hoods, and it's slowly going to be revealed who is on this team with him. I think the biggest ultimate swerve that would be able to join the Shane McMahon team would be like Kevin Owens. Kevin Owens, these guys have fought year after year. These guys have fought in a Hell in a Cell match after Kevin Owens headbutted Vince McMahon a couple of years ago. And then, of course, it was Kevin Owens who beat Shane McMahon in a ladder match on the first edition of SmackDown on Fox that kind of ended Shane McMahon's run in the WWE, where he was like the greatest wrestler of all time, because he slipped in at the last minute and he ended up beating Dolph Ziggler in the finals of a tournament where it was to be crowned who was the greatest wrestler of all time. He was running around with his trophy, just kind of being a jerk. But we've heard a lot of stories. Shane McMahon is backstage at WWE shows. Nobody really knows what his job is. He's not really involved with creative. He's not on the actual show. He's just kind of back there. And I don't know if it's like for moral support or just kind of a guy that's doing just about anything that he's asked. But WrestleMania 32, when he made his return and he fought the Undertaker, that was a long time ago. And a lot of people since then have tried to figure out really what Shane's job once it came back. Of course, if you go back a couple of years, there was kind of like a push comes to shove. And Shane saw the writing on the wall that it looked like Stephanie was actually going to be the one that was going to be taking over the WWE. And he said that he was going to go off and try and start his own business, to start his own legacy, and not live in the footsteps of Vince as well as Stephanie. If he wasn't going to be the main guy, that's the way that it's going to be. Since then, Stephanie, of course, her relationship as Triple H has blossomed. Vince has taken Triple H under his wing, kind of gave him his own promotion to run NXT, a lot like what the plans were back in the day, was that, when Shane was in the running that he was going to take over the company, at one point, Vince was going to buy ECW and then plug Shane in to actually be the Paul Heyman of ECW, run that company, and see if he was going to have success that he could bring to the table when he ran WWE. So Shane's been there. He's been here and there and around. He's been on the show. Anytime that Shane McMahon's involved with wrestling, it is fun. He is a good character to watch, whether if it's a babyface or a heel. Honestly, what I'm hoping that Shane McMahon brings to the table tonight on his edition of Raw is that he is going to lead a faction where we are going to actually, it can be the storyline of, Shane versus Stephanie. We've seen this over years. You go back to that was what the draft was in 2016, when one was running Raw, one was running SmackDown, and they had to, basically coexist for trades and the draft and things like that. But for the most part, SmackDown versus Raw, red versus blue, was originally supposed to be Stephanie versus Shane. But the one thing that we've never got throughout all of this is an actual match. And I'm not wanting to see Shane versus Stephanie, but I do want to see Shane versus Triple H. We thought we were going to get this match a few times throughout the history. I believe WrestleMania 27, some people thought that it was on the table. I believe WrestleMania, I want to think 32 might have even been when we thought we were actually going to get that match. People thought that, well, no, because originally we thought that Shane was going to put somebody in his place. Yeah, I think that's what we were thinking at the time, is that Shane was pitched for the match, but they were actually going to switch him out and put somebody else in there, because who thought Shane was actually going to get in a Hell in a Cell match at WrestleMania 32? But I'm looking forward to this. I think it's going to be a good angle. Obviously, WWE needs to shake something up. And, when they've ran storylines in the past, whether if it's the invasion, whether if it's the Nexus invasion, invasion storylines get over big in companies. I know that with a lot of guys signed to AEW, as well as, Takashapa Mania, Impact Wrestling, you're not going to be able to bring big free agents. You're going to have to use the guys that you have. And that's kind of like, maybe there's some fringe mid-card to main event guys that we haven't seen in a little bit. They've been, kind of off on the sidelines. Maybe if he brings them in, I hope it's not Roman Reigns. Honestly, I don't want to see him as the second guy. I mean, Roman needs to be a main event guy, and that needs to be. He doesn't need to be a follower. But if we were to actually get to, let's push all the chips to the middle of the table, we could start this. It might be too early for them to start a storyline that runs all the way to WrestleMania. But definitely, hopefully, this is something longer than SummerSlam. Hopefully, this is something they could build all the way up until Survivor Series in November. But with the way that WWE is flowing through writers and producers and everything like that, they might be only be able to pitch a storyline that's going to be able to run for like 2-3 weeks. So, obviously, I think they're trying to spice this up. They realize that wrestling fans are getting a little bored of what's going on, just wrestling at the Performance Center each and every week, and you can have a few fans in there, but there's no real big pops and ahs and things that get you excited about watching wrestling. So let's see what Shane brings to the table. Hopefully we can get Shane versus Triple H, and I think that builds towards a real big match that a lot of people are going to be excited for.